Good evening, all. I'm Arun, the VP Education of Chennai Wordsmiths. As we have been doing a lot of online sessions of late, we thought let's take this initiation as well to have the champions doing some workshops for us so that we could understand how they prepare and how they prepare for the championships. So, in that series, we have the first speaker for the season now. He's the champion of ISC in Division B District 82. He is the CEO of Hexilon. And without any further ado, I would like to call upon Toastmaster Sridhar Ranganathan to take the screen.
Okay. Thank you, Arun. Thank you, everybody else, for being present here at this time. This is probably the first time I'm speaking to a screen. So please bear with me. My body language and my voice modulation is not appropriate at this stage. I asked Arun saying that, okay, why do you have to choose me for body language and voice modulation? And then he very innocently put across saying that I want my club members to understand if somebody like you can actually become good at body language and voice modulation, can become, and that is the reason why we want it. Something happened at home I thought I should share, which is very relevant. My couple of days back, my son, the second son, who's around 10 years old, was standing in the balcony and having food. And almost, I mean, three, four of us were there, and I was telling him all the time, saying that why don't you get into the house and eat because you may have dust coming in, the sun is there, and all that. So I tried in all possible ways that I could do. And I spent almost 5-10 minutes to actually tell him logic and then gave him explanation as to what he should be doing and all that. Almost 10 minutes later, my wife just came there and she just said, Abhi, and he not only went inside, he pulled everybody inside and went. And that is why I understood the power of body language and vocal variety or voice modulation as such. Because I tried for almost 10-15 minutes in every possible way to convince him, coax him, cajole him, and do it. And it required all one voice modulation of Abhi and then one body gesture of and then he had to take it inside. So, and that is the impact of body language and voice modulation when it is used appropriately. So, as a speaker, I've had a terrific journey in terms of voice modulation and body language, I should say, because when we come to Toastmasters, we get a very different perspective about voice modulation and body language as such, because we see many a times people who are very good in body language and voice modulation get a lot of attention as such, and from that perspective we have a very wrong notion that saying that if you are able to master some of these exaggerated things in our life, we will be able to do it. So I also tried that maybe in 2007 and 2008 when I was attempting my contest and all that. I wanted to do an exaggerated body language. I mean, running from one end of the stage to the other end of the stage. See, I am somebody where if you talk about body language, body will go in one direction and language will go in one direction. And that's how it is. There's no way where I will be actually able to demonstrate a proper body language. And I'm a very stoic person, and it is not possible for me to jump around the stage and do it. But I always was thinking that how can I have an exaggerated body language and impactful gestures? Okay, how do you make an impact on whatever you're speaking? And another thing is a high decibel delivery, right? And we have seen people shouting, we have seen people really making a huge impact when we have to inspire and all that. And then have even ask thought provoking questions. How do you rule the stage and what you're doing? And then running into the audience. Many things which actually I tried. I still remember once when I had to try a high decibel delivery, towards the last part of the speech, I went and told people, do you know what is the most important thing that is required in your life? Fire, fire, fire. Security actually came running thinking that there is some fire accident here, and nothing else happened actually. And similarly, when you're talking about ruling the stage, there is one constant attempt by Toastmasters, I should say, where people talk about dividing the stage into three or four. Actually have one side as one location, the other side is another location, and all that. So in the district final of 2013 contest, because even at that time I was evolving as a speaker, so I really decided that I should actually have home on one side of the stage. And in fact, Tiger was the contest master at that final contest that I came second runner-up in 2013 in Chennai. So I had two situations, one office and one home and one office on the right and left. So there are 3, 4 occasions where I actually represent the house and when I come to office. You will not believe one very senior Toastmaster, after the contest was over, before the results were announced, he came and told me, Sridhar, I observed you in all the 4 times you actually went from your office to home. You did not go to your house, you went to your neighbor's place actually. Now, to that extent, he was closely monitoring how I had defined the stage into home and office and how I was not actually following it up. So, such things also happen because when I'm not used to something, the definition changes when you are actually speaking. So, and similarly, ask for thought-provoking questions. And especially, there is a myth which people say, you always have to start with a very powerful question to people, and thereby the connect will happen. I also did that. I went and asked the audience saying that, what is the most important thing you all need in your life? And I gave a pause, and somebody in the audience said, whiskey. See, I was prepared for happiness, money, goals, and all that. But when somebody said whiskey, I didn't know what to do. Also, I didn't know how to respond as such. Then I had to literally start. Okay, forget that question, and I had to start literally from the beginning. So all these things, like everybody else does, I also tried a few things, and then running into the audience. Now, if you look at Craig Valentine, I remember in Mysore when he had come, huge Infosys auditorium. He actually started from the stage and almost towards the end, he ended at the other end of the auditorium. People didn't even know where he was. Only the voice was coming and he was going all around. For me to take 3 steps itself, I will forget what I was speaking. So it was not easy for me at all. So I tried all that, and when I wanted to have a dominating stage presence, and when I did all this, I only ended up having an intimidating results as such. And that is when I started realizing that there is no effort that is required in terms of adding the body language and vocal variety to what we are doing. We have to uncover the body language, uncover the vocal variety that is required for us to actually make an impactful presentation in a speech. I really realized that the most important learning for me is when we are doing a speech, especially in Toastmasters, it is not acting. We are not actors for us to come up, bring up something, and then make an impact to say that you have to really emote so much and then make people cry. That's not your objective. When you are giving a speech, you are just reliving those moments. If you're talking about an incident that had happened, if you remember what Tiger spoke about in the contest, he was talking about how the
Yes.
co-contestant was actually treating him differently. He was able to bring life at that particular point of time. We are able to visualize as to what was happening, and there was no exaggerated body language at that time. There was no exaggerated, vocal variety at that time. But you still found that you were able to see a co-contestant there or a runner who was running, and on the stage it was created. So it is important that when you actually relive the situation at that particular point of time, you will be able to make a huge impact. And as part of it, if there is an exaggerated requirement which is there, which is fine. See, in any speech for that matter, exaggeration is always important. But exaggeration should not be there in your action. And I always believe we tend to feel that there is a necessity for us to inspire the audience. I strongly believe that as a speaker, you don't have to inspire the audience. Audience have to get inspired by what you're doing, which means the responsibility of the inspiration part lies with the audience from what you are communicating or what you're sharing, rather than you trying to make effort and inspiring the message. Another important aspect which we need to keep in mind is there are different types of audience which we have. And that is when the importance of vocal variety and the body language comes into existence as such. Because some people in the audience could be auditory in nature. Some people in the audience could be visual in nature, and some people in the audience could be kinesthetics in nature. So we need to have a speech which actually caters to all 3 types of people who are there. And if you are more auditory in nature, it can be distracting for somebody who is either kinesthetics or visual in nature. If you are more visual in nature, it can be distracting for people who are auditory in nature or kinesthetics in nature. It is important that you actually bring in a balance so that even if you have a heterogeneous type of audience of different age, different emotions, different logic, auditory, visual, and kinesthetics in nature, you are able to actually make a huge impact. How you connect with the audience is not just about the content and the way you deliver. I keep giving all example all the time like this. See, I saw this movie called Linga with my dad at home. See, my dad is a very logical person. I'm a very emotional person when it comes to Rajinikanth. See, towards the end, Rajinikanth actually from one bridge will jump, actually will fly and then reach the air balloon, hot air balloon, which Anushka was going. Right? When he was doing that, see, me being emotional, for me, whatever Rajinikanth does, I will also enjoy, and I was flying with him. Of course, he went and landed in Anushka's hot air balloon, and I had to sit at home only. Whereas my dad was asking, saying that how was it possible for Rajinikanth to fly like this and then go and hit the hot air balloon? See, actually speaking, Rajinikanth cannot jump even from a small chair or a stool, right? But it is an exaggerated one there at that particular point of time. But for somebody like me, because I was able to connect with the speaker much better or the performer much better, I was able to accept it. Whereas my father was not able to accept it because he was very logical and his connect with him was not that great. So similarly, if you are able to establish a strong connect in what you have as a personality of a speaker, and then able to establish that credibility with that audience, then even an exaggerated movement will actually be acceptable. But otherwise, if you're trying to act, it is going to really make a huge distraction for people. And there are many questions which are there. I'll try and take each one of them. And there is always a big question that runs in people's mind is when there are 4 or 5 characters that I have, or 2 or 3 characters do I have, how do I make a difference? Do I really have to show that it is, I mean, in a vocal variety, very different tones and very different pitches for me to do it? I think we are not mimicry players. We don't have to mimicry at all. So what is very important is in your profile, in your mannerism, if you are able to bring the personality of that person, or that character, what you're trying to bring there, that is more than good enough. And similarly, many people say, okay, suppose if I'm talking to the audience in the stage, should I actually be facing the audience and talking, or should I be facing the character and talking? It is not wrong for you to face the character and talking. But my mentor told me, maybe there could be many other philosophies. My mentor told me, if you are disconnecting your eye contact with the audience for more than 15 to 20 seconds, you are losing them. So at no point of time, you should make sure that at no point of time there is a longer than 15 or 20 seconds disconnect from the audience. So you need to actually talk to that character and get back to the audience so that it's easy for you to keep that connect alive. So from that perspective, if you are talking to a character, I always believe it this way. Suppose if you have established one person as a father this side and as a son this side, even a small change in the angle will be able to make people understand that you're talking as two different characters. So if you're talking as a father here this side and say, "Oh, why are you doing all this all the time?" Ah, leave it. I'm sure with this change itself, you know who's talking as what character, right? Because you don't have to now really raise voice like a father saying, "Tell me what are you doing?" And then say, "Appa, there's no need of any acting or mimicry at all." Just by saying that, "I don't know why you are doing this." Ah, leave it. See, just in the attitude, just in the mannerism, you're able to bring the difference. And my shift was only this much, like this and like this. And that will be able to make a huge difference. But one mistake, what we should not be doing is, you should not switch characters. Suppose you're bringing your dad this side and the son this side, it's always good for you to maintain that uniformity throughout that speech. Otherwise, if you're actually mixing it up, then it could be confusing as to who is speaking to what, to whom. And that is very important. So having said that, if you ask me, do I make exaggerated movements? I do make exaggerated movements. For example, I think even in the division speech, some of you would have seen that. I actually tell that Geeta grabbed Deborah by the hand and brought her to the stage. I actually pushed that and then do it. I don't think there is anybody who would have done that, right? She was just pulled her and brought it. At that time, to make an impact, I actually said that Geeta grabbed Deborah by the hand and pulled her to the stage. That was there to make a different impact because the emotion at that point was very, very different. There is some kind of disappointment for the person who's on stage, and there is some kind of a celebration that is happening. To bring that contrast and to make it very impactful, you actually had that exaggeration, bring them there, and that time it will make a huge difference. Otherwise, if I had just said that, no, when she opened the, I don't know what was happening. Oh my God! And those things really is not going to work when I'm going to do that. And that's very important. So anything that you are doing, if it is supplementing and if it is not substituting, it actually can really make huge difference. So my mentor used to say, audience are not fools. Right? You don't have to go and ask them just for you to incorporate a body language. Have you drunk water? people know that this is the water, drinking water has to be shown. So, which means you are actually trying to fool them or trying to think that they're idiots, not knowing as to this is the water has to be done. So then the audience will automatically disconnect from you. So a substitution of a gesture is not appropriate. A supplementation gesture is appropriate. So that's why I said when I'm saying that grabbed by the hand, there you are not finding it to be very odd. You are not substituting. You're only supplementing when you're talking about. And I also believe that when you're bringing in the gesture, it is very important for you to actually try and see what you can speak in 10 words. If you can bring it in 3 words and one small action, be able to really make a big difference. Like how I said now, when my wife was telling, I could have actually articulated saying that, the way she came and spoke, looked at him, and then she just spoke those 2 words, Abhi, get in. And then this happened. No, I just said, my wife came, Abhi, everything happened. So if you can actually make it shorter and make it very impactful, it can make a huge difference. Another question is saying that, okay, how do I work on my body language? How do I work on my vocal variety? I strongly believe that, especially when it comes to vocal variety, there are 3 types of variety that you can bring in, especially in terms of the speed that you bring in. Some places you'll have to be very, very rapid. And some places you have to be very slow and regulated. And some places you can actually be very normal. How can you do that? Rapid things happen when you're actually describing an emotional situation. I went there. I just did not take it. It was very difficult for me to even understand what was happening there. Then something wrong for me at that particular point of time. Realized how something. You can see the difference, right? Between how do you transform from one level to the other level without actually showing that you are transforming. So in the same series of say sentences, I was able to bring some rapidity, I was able to bring some slowness, and I was able to bring some delivery. So if you are delivering a point of fact, you can actually be in a normal this one. If you are delivering something emotional, something which you are narrating, then you can bring the speed this one. And when you're something you're talking about very profound messaging, then you need to actually give the pause and make sure that is happening. And when I speak about pause, I think pause is an important element of our body language. Many people take that for granted. In fact, my mentor had taught me in the initial stages because I used to be speaking very fast. He used to tell me pause is very important and count, even if you have to count 10, fully count. And even when I'm beginning a speech for that matter, moment the contest chair is announcing the name and the topic is announced, we are in an urgency to speak. And many times we feel, suppose if we are not speaking, what will happen? And in 2016, I deliberately did that. 2016, yeah, 2016, I went on stage for 20 seconds. I deliberately did not open my speech at all. I was looking at the audience, I was looking at the audience, I was looking at the audience, but you'll not believe it was so restless. Inside, I was actually becoming restless, but the beauty was I was seeing people becoming more restless there. They all started looking at me and asked, why this fellow has not spoken. I was able to grab the attention, and then when I spoke, in the first 30 seconds, I had a tremendous experience of people connecting very strongly. So small things actually make a huge difference. A simple pause can actually make a huge impact. And many times it can speak much stronger than what words can speak. So having said that, when I've said that okay, there is a need for supplementation, there is a need for rapid, regulated, actual delivery. There are simple changes in posture that are good enough. But the most important thing I strongly believe that you need to be natural for yourself. If I am actually running across from one end of the stage to the other end of the stage, I think it will be awkward not only for me, it will be awkward for everybody. It's going to really have a disconnect. I'm a stoic person. And if I'm able to stand there and make simple changes and use the stage wherever it is relevant, if I'm moving, I think it will make a tremendous impact. Similarly, a person who is actually an exaggerated personality, who's an extrovert, who actually likes people like him seeing that kind of an energy, he is standing in one place, people will find it hard. So it is good for you to find what is your natural style, and thereby, if you are able to make an impact, it will make a huge difference. I feel. So I'm going to take questions which were there, which was given by, and I'll see if I have addressed. So if there are 4 or 5 characters in my speech and I need to differentiate them, what kind of voice tone I can give them, and apart from voice modulation, what else can be incorporated. So as I told you, I think it is important for you to just bring in that personality difference. Even the slightest of the difference, if you are able to bring in, it can actually make a huge difference. Is impersonation necessary in a speech? You don't have to transform yourself into that personality. As I told you, you're not acting. You're only reliving. You're actually speaking about an incident that had happened. So in your own way, if you are able to narrate it, it's good enough. How to overcome clenching or holding hands together while presenting a speech? I think if you give a deliberate responsibility to your hands, it will not actually get clenched. How do you give a deliberate responsibility? Make it actually so. Suppose if you want to, when you are speaking, try and see how you can give the compliment to the speech, saying, if I'm able to supplement it by giving something which I don't have to speak, then your hands will actually be free. And also find out if you're really in a sense, if you're by nature, are you a person even in a one-on-one discussion? In fact, I think Tiger had asked this question. In a one-on-one discussion, do you tend to actually close your fist like this, or do you tend to put your hands in your pocket and all that? That is there, then you need to actually change that. If that is not there on a one-on-one behavior, then it means it is your nervousness which is actually making you do it. Nervousness can go away only when you actually are able to practice and when you master what you're talking. That is something which is really. Sir, I've seen you deliver the speech with great flow, and there is a great picturization of the character from the spark of mentioned script. What are the sequence of events that happen? So I am a person who is a very strong content person. I strongly believe that moment I actually get comfortable with my content, if my mind can believe that saying that there is no way that my content can let me down, then it actually helps me do it. So I internalize the content very strongly. I like some of the words which I take, I really internalize it very strongly and make myself feel comfortable with the speech. So which means even without a body language, I know that I'll be able to make a huge difference. And then I add, and then I practice, and then I'll see how I actually naturally bring differentiation in and give. How to show emotions via body language and voice modulation in speech. As I told you, sometimes a simple uh, pause and gaze at the audience will actually can make a huge difference. I do not understand what was happening at that time. You tell me, what would you do if you are in this situation? I agree. So that kind of a thing is good enough for you to communicate. So the most important thing is as to how you actually exchange ideas or exchange your experience with the audience rather than trying to. I move my hands unconsciously during the speech, so how to intentionally use hand gestures to effectively communicate. As I told you, I think if your natural thing is to move unconsciously, but don't worry. I think once you get into the habit of uh, mastering your content, you'll be able to get that easily. Here are some tips to improve voice modulation. I think sometimes working on your voice really helps. There was one manual, I think should be there now also. Work on your voice, which used to be given by Toastmasters International. It suggests some exercises you can work on it just so that your bass, what comes from deep depth, what comes from the shallow level, all those things could be very useful. You have pressure of delivering content, but know that voice modulation will help. But still, you are focused on delivering content. In this situation, how to focus? So you have to decide whether you are a content rich person or a delivery person. If you're a content rich person, focus on that, and then delivery you can actually start practicing. If you're a person who's strong in delivery, then I think you need to actually have that free flowing thing and see how you can fit content into it. Is it important to use body language, especially when talking one on one? I think uh, to me, between a one on one speech and a large audience speech, there need not be too much of a difference. Whatever comes to you naturally, I think that is very important for you to practice. And many a times we are far more natural and authoritative in our body language when we speak one on one because there is no inhibition. There's no question of we having, we getting evaluated or somebody is watching you. So you're quite natural. So as many people who come and ask me saying that, sir, I've never got this body language properly. My voice modulation is always a problem. I said the last 30 seconds you have spoken to me, you've used your hands properly, you used vocal variety properly. What's the problem? Only thing when you get conscious on the stage, it actually dampens it. What are the common stands for public speaking? I think there are many theories which are there. As much as possible, stand straight, chest up, chin up, and then see how you can show that authority. Open fist so that you are welcoming the audience, so that you are able to en masse, you are able to pull the stage as much as possible. Wish to know more on voice mode. Want to hear from happy about body language tricks and techniques. As I told you, I just use minimal changes. Characterization, as much as possible, I take it minimal, and I actually make people look at it from a distance itself. So there, my mom, and I'm talking about my mother's speech, I go on one direction. When I was desperately waiting for some help or a helping hand, help came from a place where I totally unexpected. Soft fingered hands. So that way, I use the stage. I use actually gestures to point out and thereby connect it better. Oh, you're halfway into your speech and you observe no one is listening. Oh, pretty bored, and it affects your flow. How will you master your body language and carry forward the speech to completion? I don't think you'll be able to do it. And if you're doing it, you'll only make people feel more bored, and you'll actually cut a joke of yourself. So I think if you find that halfway through, if you find that the people are not listening, I think the best way is to actually pause and connect with a couple of audience so that you actually are grabbing their attention and getting them to look at you. Sometimes it will work, and if you're a very authoritative audience, you're not giving a speech, you're taking a session, it's good for you to actually seek attention also. If there's something more funny that's happening, and you please listen to me, something like that, even more straightforward can actually and can help. Is it gym body required for good body language? I think that Rajiv Nambiar can answer better. I am nowhere gym body. I have only a body, there's no gym. How to practice body language? Why are there online course to learn the same? There are quite a lot of programs which are there, and they all speak about how can you actually maintain poise, how can you maintain eye contact, all those. But again, it's like learning swimming. They all can tell you, okay, you have to beat your hand, you have to beat your leg, and all that. But unless you get into the water and do it, I don't think it's possible for us to do. What kind of practice I should do to voice modulation? As I told you, you can actually have either chanting and all that. Well, for a common man, the confidence level will be high when you are strong in subject. This would result in casual behavior and firm tone. Of course, this session would help you. For example, in case of extempore, we may become more self-conscious or run out of ideas. This might result in poor posture and off tone. Is there a direct correlation between content tone and body language tone? If so, how to overcome it? Okay. So I said, definitely there is a huge correlation between content and body language, and please exhibit some body language. Ultimate gift. Okay. So in the ultimate gift, as I told you, that as soon as I come in, I talk about. I'm sure people would have noticed that I speak about. I was not feeling guilty with a with a big expensive gift in my hand. I am able to show that gift here, so that people can visualize how big it is. And then I talk about something, and then I come and say I joined a long. So initially itself, I'm establishing the cues. The set. I'm standing in front of the queue. Then I move towards the audience and I speak something, and then after the introduction is over, I come back and said, let's get back to the queue. So and in the queue, I keep telling something, and I say as I step forward, I see Geeta just running away from here, and we turned towards the entrance, and there we saw a thin girl and all that, right? So I'm actually not moving much. I'm just turning, and I'm saying that. So then I go and do what Geeta does with Deborah. I'm so happy and all that exaggerated moment I bring in, and then I come back, walk back to the place just to say that I'm actually in the stage, waiting for the audience to, I mean, waiting for the gift to be given. And then I actually walk from there, and I said, there I was, not knowing what to do, and with the gift in my hand. So something like that. And then Geeta comes on stage with Deborah. She opens, and then she picks up a necklace, and then she looks at it. Well, Deborah has given this. So there I actually bring in a necklace chocolate. In fact, somebody suggested saying, why don't you actually have a necklace chocolate? I said, I will not do it. I want to actually people see a necklace chocolate without an excellent necklace chocolate. That's where my mastery will come in. So I pick it up, and then you will see that without actually showing how it is happening, I say that I handed over the gift, that piece of necklace chocolate in hand, I left it. So you are able to see me handing over the gift, and you are able to see me walking to the table. So that's how I've actually brought in, so that people are able to see what is happening. So here, if you see, I'm just supplementing the Eclipse chocolate. Okay, I'm not opening. and saying this and all that. And that's actually going to be a big mockery of the whole. So I've got 5 more minutes, and if there are any other questions, and if I've not covered any of these things, I'll be happy to take it.
So we have one question from Rajaratnam. When you finished the art of giving speech, you finished with a 5 second silence. What is the secret behind this?
See, especially towards the end, it is always important for you to push the message in strongly. See, you are a master of the content that you are speaking, but not all of them will follow with you in the same speed, actually, right? And it's very difficult for them to keep following with you on the same speed. So it's important for you to get them internalized. So when you actually tell them saying that, who is your Deborah? So people may even at that point start thinking, and then they're wondering, okay, what's going to happen next? Are you a Deborah? Now they're all actually getting internalized, right? And they're finding it okay, saying that is this who's that person whom I can get connected with, and that makes a huge impact. That's the reason why I always make sure that I have a very high pause ending. That way, people will remember the speech. Anything that you deliver towards the end with a pause will actually stay in people's mind. Any other question?
Sir, one question.
Yeah.
Sir, suppose if you want to practice body language, for example, if you are trying to practice it for your any contest or any speech, then you have to separately practice for that. So, is there a way to bring it our normal due course of our speech or our interaction with others? Can we bring in that training? Okay, can we do the practice and bring it automatically into the speech? Is there a way to do that?
No, I think instead of you trying to change your natural self, you try to change your speaking thing to natural way, right? So that will always be better, because if people are able to see a Sajid as Sajid, it can make a huge impact. And if they're seeing Sajid as someone else, it will be very difficult. But having said that, see, when your pressure is there, when you're nervous, you're likely to actually be less effective than what you are normally. So, which means voice may actually be low. That's when my mentor suggested saying that try and speak from a distance and record it. Okay, so that you are actually using your voice, you are using your very loud and speaking, and thereby the rate of speech also comes down significantly, and you are able to bring in a regulation in the speed overall. That is something which I have learned from my mentor.
Thank you, sir.
So one question that I have is usually I've seen a lot of members who take speeches every 2 weeks or every 1 week, but I've seen you just completing CC and you have already won championship. So how should one go about giving speeches? Like how frequent should the speeches be to ensure that they are learning from Toastmasters and they are not just completing their course or completing the speeches they have in the pathways?
Okay, so I give this example all the time. We go to the gym for different reasons, right? Somebody goes to the gym to actually build body and become Mr. Universe. Somebody goes to the gym to stay fit and then be healthy. Somebody like me goes to them so that I can actually come back home and lift my cylinder easily, right? I get fired at home. So different people have different objectives when they go to the gym. So similarly, I have different objectives when I go to Toastmasters. I wanted to actually become a better speaker. While champion of public speaking, world championship is always an attraction for me, but I wanted to really see how I can make a huge impact. And I may not be giving CC speeches, but somewhere I'll find some place to go and speak, even if people don't listen to me. Every week I'll go and speak for somewhere I will go and give a 5 to 7 minute speech. If nothing is happening, I'll call for a special meeting as a CEO in the office. People have to come, right? I'll give a 5 to 7 minute speech so that I can get my speaking requirement is getting satiated. So what I do is I will find opportunities to implement whatever I've learned at Toastmasters, and I'm a very strong Toastmaster speaker wherever I go. Even in my office, I speak only for 5 to 7 minutes, and I tell people, show me flags, show me red flags, raise hand and stop me when I'm shooting time and all that, because I've got it tuned that way. So everywhere, wherever I am, every week I will at least make sure that I'm giving some speech somewhere. Like today, there's an education session. Next week, I have one Thursday I have one session with one of the BNI groups in Bangalore on Zoom. Last week I spoke to the Kriya group in Bangalore, and then I spoke to a Noida group about a Rotary meeting. So that way I keep speaking. Somewhere I keep implementing whatever I speak. So though I may not give a structured CC speech beyond, ACB, ACS, and although I'm interested in that, but what happens every time I prepare for my contest, and that takes a lot of time, and that's why I was not able to really focus on that. But otherwise, I keep speaking. Whether people listen or not, I keep.
Okay, sir. One last question. So, how to handle if your jokes go flat during your speeches?
So I always tell that if you try humor and it is not working, it is a good subject for your next humorous speech. Like Rajshekhar Mamidanna often says that when I gave a joke and I paused, audience also paused.
Yep.
Correct. So he actually brought out another flop incident as a humor in another speech, right? So that's how it is. So you can actually anything that's happening, and if that is the main point, I strongly believe that there is a possibility of a humor in that, and you can make use of it. And I think even an accomplished humorous speaker, not all the time all the jokes click. Will fail, but the only thing is only they will know what failed. That's the difference.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. So I think we have crossed our time. One last question, Prof.
Yeah, let me grab the opportunity then. So I have one question related to Arun's previous question. So initially, how long did it take when you started your journey? How long did it take for you to prepare your speeches, and how long does it take for you now? And in what part of your speech cycle in stage usage, body language, and other things?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Now, in early 2008, 2009, or 2010, and all that, Abraham sir would know. I will write every point of speech, even if I'm doing a sergeant at arms. I have to write the speech fully, by hearted, rehearse it, and then only I can come and deliver. It is very difficult for me to give a speech without writing it. MC means I have to write everything 4 times, 5 times, and then I'll still not be successful as such. But right now, what is happening? See, for today, for that matter, I had bullet points of what I have to speak, and I know I will be able to build that content. So even if I am running short of time or exceeding time, I'll be able to either reduce it or increase it. So that kind of transformation has happened, and I'm reasonably confident that the preparation time is much shorter now. And again, earlier what I used to do, prepare the content fully and then incorporate body language. But right now, when I'm preparing for my contest speech, also I actually go and create. I write once and then I go and create the scene and start practicing. So there is definitely an evolution, and I'm less nervous if I don't know the script by heart, because I know that I can manage. In fact, in the division level also, I know there are 2 points which I actually wanted to give. I did not give because I know that in the last 30 seconds I wanted to use that pause. I deliberately dropped 1 or 2 points. So I have that kind of a control on the content delivery now, which never used to be there. Because if I miss one word in 2007, 2008, and all that, it will keep bugging me till the rest of the speech as such. That's a great evolution that has happened.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Can we have a round of applause for Sridhar, sir? I'm an embedded developer, and from my early start of my career, I've been reading a book called Linux Kernel, and this book I've read it over 7 or 8 times in different phases of my career, and every time I read this book, I always see that there is something new that I can learn from that particular book. So similarly, this video that Sridhar sir has given us, like this particular session, I believe it's that kind of a session where if you listen to this session again and again over different period of time of your Toastmaster journey, the things that you can learn from this particular session would be different. So I've tried to record it. I put it across in the YouTube platform. Definitely, you can go through this, and I strongly believe that whoever be the Toastmaster and whatever may be the journey that they are in, but they will have something to learn from this particular session. Thank you so much, sir, for giving this session. And I was actually thinking how body language and this particular voice modulation can be covered in 30 minutes, but I think you covered a lot of tips in this, and we are very grateful for you, sir. Thank you so
My
much.
pleasure.
Yeah, and I think we would be continuing this kind of workshops. And Wednesday we have another workshop where Rajiv Nambiar would be giving his 2 cents on evaluation, how to do evaluation and how to be a champion in evaluation. So looking forward to you all joining there as well. Thank you for your participation. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sridhar sir.
Thank you, sir.